Hello, everyone. If you have not been here before, welcome. At ROLINC Staffing and Search, we decided that sharing our industry experience with just our partners wasn't quite enough for us. So we wanted to bring hiring insights, marketing trends, and more to our network outside of our internal partners as well. So here it is, the ROLINC Recruiting Roundup video series where we do just that. And I have the lovely Alexis Brady, our Director of Staffing Operations, here with me today. Alexis, thanks for joining.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, Jasmine. I love our triple R's that we have, and I think that just spreading the information beyond just like who we talk to daily is really important. So thank you for hosting these. It's awesome.
Thanks again for joining me. Today is something that is going to give people a lot to add to their hiring process. First off, giving you three simple ways that are going to enhance this interview process. I think we all know that culture and value is top of mind for candidates nowadays. So, being able to promote your culture and a company's values throughout the interview process, first thing, makes a huge difference in terms of competition when you're stacking up against all these companies that are fighting for top talent.
Yeah.
So, Alexis, I'd like to pass the conversation to you to start. So, what first comes to mind in how to promote your company's values and culture successfully throughout the interview process?
Yes. Excellent question. I think the first thing is to know what they are. That's sort of critical when trying to express those things, is actually knowing what they are. I spoke
Yep.
really briefly as a vendor at an association event last summer or 2 summers ago, and the whole entire day was literally about culture. And when I went up to speak, I said, okay, who feels like they have a good handle on their culture? Raise your hand. And it was mostly business owners. One guy went like this. And it was like, okay, so they were all into it and like talking about how to promote their culture, but they weren't doing anything about it. And so how do you figure that out so that you can promote it? And this is more of an EOS, entrepreneurial operating system type of thought process, but it really comes down to like deeply thinking of what values your company has and how to iterate them to others. So one thing that Adrian did several months ago to figure out our values was we sat down as a leadership team. It was two things. If you could carbon copy certain people who are really successful in the company, who would they be? And then we listed out why we would copy those people. What was unique about them that made them successful here? So that was one step. The other step was what traits do we know of people who have not been successful here, who have moved on, and that we were okay with them moving on. Every company's experienced that. No company lives in happy land all the time. Like
We
this is
wish.
reality,
Yeah.
Yes. So we talked about who we wanted to carbon copy. It was, the humility aspect of it. They didn't think that they were better than anybody else. They didn't think that they knew better than anybody else, and they were willing to help wherever needed. And resilience, people who have not just personally, but like at work, gone through really, really tough situations and come out positively on the other end because they kept fighting, right, Jazz? So it was
Yeah.
really being able to communicate, why, what's important to us and why. So then when you are promoting that information, you actually have the correct information to pass along. Because otherwise it's just sort of like, yeah, we're great. We're awesome.
Right.
That
Right.
doesn't do
You'd
anything
be
for anybody.
surprised.
Yeah.
Right. It sounds like a
Yeah.
duh. It's obvious. And I think then that leads to your team understanding your values and being able to promote those throughout the interview process. Once you've established those values and everyone's on the same page, now you can start getting your whole team in on these interviews and doing panel interviews or team outings because that's the best way to see your culture in
Yeah.
action is
Yes.
with your team interacting together, seeing how they are day to day. Those are
Yep.
the ways that you're going to find the same personalities then that mesh with them. Because if you've got a whole team that's running on your values, when you bring someone new in, if they don't mesh well, it's probably because they don't fit that culture. Or
Yes.
if they hit it off right away, it's probably because good people attract good people.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to set those and make sure everyone in the company understands them and is living them out, and
Yep.
then bring that into your interview process so candidates can see that from the jump.
And
Speaking
yeah.
of meeting with the team, I think this goes to leadership as well. The higher level, whether it's a CEO or a VP of the
Mhm.
division, that you can get involved in that interview process. These people are hopefully the pillars of, the values for the company, and are living those out daily and instilling those in new hires and folks that have been there forever. So if you can bring in those high level folks, especially if you're talking a leadership candidate, I think they definitely should be meeting with high level executives, especially if, if there are a few interviews in and you're getting serious about them. So besides the actual interview process and bringing on the team, Alexis, what do you think about within the first few calls? Because I think you can definitely utilize a recruiter more to promote those cultural values in like call one, really.
Right.
How would you use a recruiter to make sure that's happening?
Yeah. I mean, we've been calling it like the hype man, right? Like recruiter hype man, recruiter like wingman, if you will, to really
Right.
support that. And obviously, integrating your either third party recruiter like us or your internal recruiter to understand more deeply what the values are. So, having that information in the recruiter's hands so that during that initial conversation, they're ready to go in regards to exactly what the values are at a high level, success stories for each of those, and then how to weed out during a discussion of what the opposite of those culture values are. That's huge. So,
Yeah.
really having a recruiter understand what those values are, hype up your company in regards to values, and make sure that everything aligns. That's key. So, yeah, so those are my thoughts
Love
on
that.
kind of the hype man aspect.
I love that. And I think back to, if you're setting this in stone ahead of time, now you can start breaking that down into, okay, humility is one of our values. What questions can we be asking candidates that kind of weeds out humility in different work situations? And you can really craft these first interviews for recruiters to where it's not just hard skills and, can you pass a certain test, but really being
Okay.
able to ask them questions where they can line them up to your values. So I love that. That's great. And that is actually the last question I had for you today. Are there any final thoughts on culture and promoting that in the interview process?
Just understanding how important it is because hard skills can be taught. I mean, well,
Yep.
I may not be good with many of them in terms of the trades and things that we we place in. Don't trust me with electricity, but otherwise, hard skills can be taught, right? It's the culture side that you sort of get who you get when they come on board with you in regards to soft skills.
Yeah.
So culturally, understanding the objective values that you have and how to find them objectively in the interviews is everything. So I'm looking forward to our next call.
Alrighty, well, that wraps it up for today. And we will be speaking again with Alexis in part two of this ROLINC recruiting roundup, where we're going to discuss how to promote your brand authentically through either a third party or your own hiring company. But we will talk about how we do things here at ROLINC. As always, if you are an industry partner or someone within our network that would like to join me on a ROLINC recruiting roundup to talk about some things maybe outside of the hiring space, but relevant to our manufacturing or construction clients or whatever it may be, feel free to drop me a message. Or if you have a topic that we can discuss next time, you know where to find us. Alexis, thanks again for joining me today, and I'll see you next
Thank
time.
you. Thanks, Jazz.